What's up, guys? So just a couple days ago, we had our patron only tournament. It was a lot of fun. I actually did not win the tournament, which surprised me. I thought I was going to win, but I got to give a lot of credit to the participants. We had a couple of players that played really, really well. I'm going to show you two games. One game is going to be, this first one here is from Nathan. He actually beat me in the tournament. And so congratulations to him. I'm going to show you that game to show you what happened. And then we're also going to look at the game from the person who won the tournament, the game that I played against them. I actually was able to win that game barely at the end, but you're going to see that one as well. So both of these are going to be instructive. I think there's going to be some nice learning opportunities. So having said that, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so here's the game I played against Nathan. He was white. We both actually went berserk this game. So if you look over here, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Yes, you can. This little symbol means that we cut our time in half. You can do this in arena tournaments, and if you win the game, you actually get an extra point. So that's why you would want to do that. So it's a 5-minute game, but we both did that. So we both had just 2.5 minutes for the game. So he plays e4. I played the Scandinavian. Maybe I should have went with the Latvian gambit in hindsight, but I was kind of just mixing it up a little bit here. I went with the knight f6 line. So most common is to just take it with the queen right away, but I like to do this. It can be pretty tricky. And so he plays d4. And I played what's called the Portuguese variation. So this is a weird looking move if you haven't seen it. You're just attacking the queen. The point is not that you're trying to win the queen, right? Because at the level that I play at, nobody's going to just let me take their queen. Unless it's a bullet game, sometimes it happens. But most people are going to block with a pawn. And you do, that's what Nathan played, and you do lose a tempo when you do this, because now I have to move my bishop, right? So why would I do that? I went back here, by the way. The reason that you would want to do this is, number one, it takes away the square from the knight. So the knight is actually best placed on f3. It can go here. It controls the center very nicely. e2 is okay for the knight, but it's not as good. You can see it would block the bishop if you played it right away. So you take that square away from the knight. That's one thing. The other thing is you create some weaknesses along this diagonal. So sometimes there are tactics that pop up with your queen over here, as well as the square on e3 is now weaker because the pawn is not defending it. So those are kind of the trade-off. Yes, you lose a move by going there and having to go back, but you do get some nice trade-offs. So that's the idea. He plays c4, which is a good move. This is one of the main lines. I played e6. He took it, and here I made my first, I would say, inaccuracy. This isn't like a big blunder or anything. Stockfish doesn't really mind this move too much, but I captured the pawn. And I actually forgot the line, but what I'm supposed to play is knight to c6. Let me show you. I'm supposed to play this. I took it, but the reason that I would do this, and it looks kind of weird at first, like it's like, what? You're going to give up another pawn and let your king like lose castling rights? Yes, you are. And here's the thing. Remember the knight that can't go to f3? That's like the most annoying piece when your king is on f7. But that knight is not a problem, right? So we don't have to worry about that. This diagonal is the second most annoying thing when your king's on f7. And that pawn on c4 is blocking the queen. It's stopping the bishop from going there. So it's giving me some time. And my king is actually kind of safe right here. White's king is in real danger because once you move this bishop out, which I can do with check if I want, the rook is going to come over. And remember, whenever you can get a rook lined up on a king in the center, it's almost always really good news. You pair that with the fact that I have 3 pieces developed, white has no pieces developed, and the engine says black is just better here. So that's what I should have done. I should have just played knight c6, allowed white to capture here. Now, the other move that kind of looks natural is what if they play d5, right? Like you don't take the pawn, you just kind of connect your pawns. This is actually really bad for white too. Knight to b4, threatening the fork. There's not really a good way to stop it except knight a3. And then you just simply play bishop c5. And I mean, you've got all your pieces developed, ready to go. Again, if it takes here, you're not worried about that. Your rook is coming over. And if white doesn't take, you're probably just going to castle. Then you can take it yourself. And again, everything's going to get opened. And white is really behind in development. So, and this knight is kind of awkward over here. It can't move because it has to guard that square. It's just really bad for white. So that's kind of what should have happened, knight c6. But I forgot that line and I just captured. All right, so knight c3, bishop b4, knight e2. Nathan's playing good moves. I castled a3. I traded here, knight c6, just kind of developing bishop e3 again. Good move. Now I played knight h5, which is a bad move. I did see that I was going to get forked, but my idea was I wanted to come over here and get some pressure on the king. And I thought it's a blitz game. We both have 2 minutes. Like I'm okay, even if I lose a piece, like getting the pressure on the king. I thought it was worth it. So that wasn't, I mean, it was a bad move, but it wasn't like I blundered. I just made choice to do that. So he did play g4, forking to pieces, and now I took it. The reason I took it is if I play queen h4 immediately, he can just simply go bishop f2, and I got to move my queen. It's like, that's a wasted move. And I'm still losing a piece, right? So it really makes no sense. By capturing first, now when I play queen h4, which is what I did, there's no longer bishop f2 because my rook's involved, right? So by sacrificing the bishop, I opened up the file. So now it forces his king to move. And I thought, when I was kind of analyzing that, okay, if I can get his king to move here, that's going to be dangerous. It turns out, and Stockfish shows this, he played exactly what Stockfish recommended here, by the way. Just run, which is, it's logical. It makes sense, right? You just run over here. But he's totally fine. So I went here, he captured that, and then he just ran with his king. And he just kind of hides over here, which is great. He can tuck himself in a2, and I really have no way to get to his king. So nice job there. And then we played some more moves. I'm just down a piece at this point, so we're just playing down a piece. I did this little trade. Okay, fine. And we're going to get to this position right here. And first of all, a queen versus 3 pieces is usually bad for the queen. And even if they're like minor pieces, so like 2 knights and a bishop could be, the pieces are usually better. Now, because I have these 2 pawns, that adds a little bit, that white has to be careful for. But 2 rooks and a knight, very, very strong. And really the big problem for me in this position is that my king has nowhere safe to go, right? So I can't move here. I don't want to stay here in line with this rook. And even if I move over here, this rook can very easily get to my king. And if I try to like run back here, I have to be careful that I don't get mated by this rook. There's so many little tactics and tricks with these rooks and knight. Very, very bad position for me. So I played here. I was like, let me just go for some checks. I didn't really know what else to do. I mean, you could see we have like 45 seconds at this point, or I had 45 seconds. All right, so I went here. Basically, here's the thing. Like I said, I can't move here. I can't stay here. And if I move over here, I'm going to get pinned by the rook. So also there's a discovered check coming with the knight. So I didn't want to lose my queen to a discovered check with the knight. So I went to c4. This is whenever you put your queen one space away from a knight like this on the diagonal, the knight can't attack it. It takes 3 moves for it to attack it, like 1, 2, 3 before it can, 1, 2, 3. Anyway, that's a safe place for the queen. That's why I went there. He put me in check, good move, and he just kept checking me with the rooks, and I had no moves. There was just nothing I could do because of the way my king is. There's nowhere for it to hide, and rooks are very good at moving the king around. So yeah, Nathan played great. He goes here, he goes here. I have to give up my queen now, because if I try to run anymore, I'm just getting mated in 1. So only move is to give up the queen. And I've got these 2 pawns. If my king was like where it could defend them, maybe I could try to push the pawns and make something happen. But because my king is so far from the pawns, it's really very easy. He just needs to go and capture the pawns, which he did, and sacrifice the rook, and he has 2 pawns, and he's going to win. So congratulations to Nathan. Really well played game. Some people were saying in the comments, like, how did you lose to an 1800? Like, he played a really good game. I mean, 1800 is it's a high rating. Like, yeah, it's not 2400, but hey, mistakes happen. I made a couple mistakes. He played a good game. So yeah, congratulations, Nathan. But now I'm going to show you the game that I played against the tournament winner. I didn't lose this game, but it was very close. So let's go ahead and look at that one now. All right, so here's the game against Lord. Again, I was black and I went berserk this game. So you can see I have this little symbol, and Lord did not. So he had 5 minutes. I had 2.5 minutes. But if I won, I would have got an extra point. And this was like the last game of the tournament right before it ended. It actually ended up not counting for the tournament, which is why Lord won the tournament, because I was like right behind him. And so I was trying to, kind of catch up, but I didn't win the game fast enough. But he played really well. And there's one moment in particular where it got very, very dangerous for me. So let's go ahead and look at this. He plays bishop c4, knight f6. It's funny, d4. This is called the Yurosov Gambit, I believe. It's funny because I actually play this on the white side sometimes. I've been experimenting with this. If you guys followed my tournament, I played this. And so yeah, just playing it from the other side was kind of funny. So I took it. He plays knight f3. This is main line, knight c6, castles. I captured here. And now we've kind of transposed into a Scotch gambit. This is the Nachmanson gambit, which is very, very interesting. You give up the piece with the idea that you sack the bishop. You actually give up 2 pieces. Your queen comes in. Black's king is like, gets attacked. It's pretty crazy. There's lots of YouTube videos about that. I don't know if I've covered it yet. I might do that in the future, but it's a lot of fun. He didn't play that. He played rook e1, which is the other kind of main line. I played d5, and now Lord made the first mistake here. I would say first big mistake, bishop d3. So this is a weird position, but what you have to do is actually capture the pawn. Queen takes, and then you play knight to c3. And this knight is pinned, so it can't take it. This pawn is actually pinned to the queen, so you can't take the knight or you lose the queen. So because of that, this knight is totally fine going to knight c3, and it's forking these pieces, right? So I have to move my queen, and then white gets the piece back. So that's kind of the main line. I think I would have played queen h5, and then it goes something like this. There's a discovered check, but you just block it. The knight moves, you castle, takes, and you get this position, which is pretty equal. I think it's more fun to play for black, though, because there is this checkmate threat. You've got lots of open files to work with, attack the king. It's pretty dangerous for white, but according to the engine, it's pretty equal. That's the main line. But if you don't know that, it's very hard to see and calculate that in a blitz game. So I'm not surprised that he just retreated the bishop. It's kind of a logical move, like I said, if you don't know the main line. So bishop d3, bishop e7. This is actually really good for me. And it's because I have an extra couple of pawns, and white doesn't really have any compensation for it, right? It's even except for these two extra pawns, but I even have actually more development than white does. So that's why it's much better for black. But we play on, he gets one pawn back. I just wanted to get castled, okay. And right here, so this is actually a mistake on my part. So if you guys want to pause and think through this, why is this such a bad move for me? And what can white play in this position that's a really strong move? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the move that white can play, and that's what he played, actually bishop to f4. And the problem with this for me is that it's pinning the knight to my queen, so I can't move it. And it's also 1, 2, 3 pieces are attacking my knight, and I only have it defended twice. So I have to figure out a way to defend it one more time, otherwise I'm going to lose my knight. The problem is the only pieces that could defend it would be this pawn or these rooks, right? And they can't because they're blocked. So basically I'm losing a piece, and I didn't see that. So I decided, you know what, I can at least go with, this was my plan, to try to trap this bishop. So at least I'm going to get my piece back by trapping this one, but it messes up my pawn structure, and it's just not a good trade for me. So that was a nice move by Lord, and we get this position. So yeah, 6 pawns now. I have 6 pawns now. It's much more equal, right? My 2 pawn advantage is gone. He's about to complete his development, and we get a very, very equal looking position. So okay, here we go. I did get my rook on at the second, which is pretty nice, but he's able to trade this off. And right here, I made a mistake, and I again invite you to pause. What do you think I should have played in this position? This is kind of a tough move, I would say, to find, but go ahead and give it a try if you'd like. What should black play in this position, and why? All right, well, the move that I should have played is actually rook to a7, which at first glance, it's like, whoa, that's kind of a weird move, right? Like, don't you want the rook to defend the back rank so that I don't have to worry about checks and stuff? Actually, no, you don't. And here's why. I played a4, okay? But now he plays rook to d7. Fantastic move. And if you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that one of the principles about rooks that I talk about is if you can get them on the 7th rank when the king is back there, it can be really good. And if you can get 2 rooks on the 7th rank, it's even better. And that's what's coming next. He's going to go here, and guess what? He's going to take this, he's going to take this, and he's going to constantly be able to put my king in check. And there's not going to be anywhere that I can run to. Worst case, white's going to have a draw. Just perpetual check, right? So for example, if I push this pawn up, this rook is coming here. I push this pawn up. Yes, I'm about to get a queen, but it doesn't matter. He's going to take me check. He's going to take me check, check. You get the idea, right? I can never get out of this. And if I'm not careful, I might even have to watch out that I don't get checkmated, right? So very, very bad news for me. So going back to this position, all the way back here, rook a7 is a fantastic move because I gain control of that 7th rank, right? I'm not letting white get a rook there. Either of these rooks, I'm just going to take it now, right? So this is what I had to play. Now, yes, it leaves the back rank open, but that doesn't matter. I have an escape route. I'm not getting back rank mated. I can just run over here. I'm totally fine. And now I can start pushing this pawn and things are good. Because as long as my king is going to be able to run away and escape and eventually kind of make a beeline over here, I can hide behind some pawns or behind a rook. Or that's the key point, right? What happened in the game is that this is going to happen next, right? If I push the pawn. So, all right, so he goes here. Did I push the pawn? Yes, I did. I did push the pawn. Rook comes down, and now is when I realized, oh, the other rook's coming. Oh, yeah, that's, I'm going to be in trouble. And by the way, what I was thinking to myself was that if he moves the rook, I'll just like use this rook to help defend somehow. A lot of times what you can do is bring this rook over to defend your pawn, and then even if there's two rooks, it doesn't matter. You're good, right? What I realized here is that I can't do that. I can't go there. And I can't go here to go there because this pawn, right? So these pawns actually are really bothering what I would like to do with this rook. So I think I thought for a little while here and finally found some sort of trick, rook f8. And by putting my rook on the f file, what I did was gave my king a place to hide, sort of, right, on f8. Now there's no checks from the rook, at least not immediately, right? This check, I just take it. This check or this check, I just take it. This check, I can just take this. So that was my sort of trick. He goes here, which is very, very dangerous for me, right? I'm about to get potentially checkmated by either of these rooks. King to e8. Now if he goes for this, I'm taking this rook. That was my idea. He goes here. And he could have actually just gotten a draw by going back and forth, right? If he goes here again, threatening the checkmate, he's going to be able to just keep checking me, keep threatening checkmate. I can't get out of it. But he went this way, which allows me to push the pawn, right? Because now there's no threat, or I'm going to take the rook. So a little bit of a mistake there. Okay, now he's got the double checkmate threat. Both of these moves will be checkmate. Again, I'm getting out of the mating threat. If this rook comes down here, I take this one, and I took away that square. Okay, so that's how you deal with that problem. He comes over here. It almost looks scary, but I've got my rook that can block. So push the pawn again, and I did block. We trade, which was not a good decision. I think actually at this point it doesn't really matter, because if he goes back here to try to do this, I can get the queen and it's going to cover the square. So at this point, I think I'm just winning. But I only had like 7 seconds, so here we go. It was kind of a time scramble. And I was able to win, but the tournament ended, so this game didn't count, and Lord actually won the tournament. So congratulations, Lord. Great performance. 1500 to win this tournament was outstanding, and this game actually was really well. This idea of putting both rooks on the 7th rank, really, really smart, and you saw how dangerous this was for me, right? So remember this in your games, especially at the end of the game. 2 rooks on the 7th like this, extremely dangerous. The key move that I should have played right here, rook to a7. So remember that. Congratulations to you guys, and I'll see everyone in the next tournament. We're going to be doing this every month, so the next tournament will be the first Saturday in April. All right, so thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed those recaps and learned something. As always, stay sharp, play smart, take care.